And been so kindly supportive of our mission. Thank you so much for being here. I am just so personally grateful. We're going to talk a little bit about the beginnings. In the beginning, in 1999, at the turn of the century, we had created an organization called the Mike Gould Youth and Family Learning Association, named in honor of my brother. We had an all-volunteer board, and we had a mission. Our mission was to assist low-income DC area kids to access higher education, particularly with respect to community college and professional certifications. But that was about all we had. We had no staff for the first 7 years. We had no office. And of course, we operated at a much lower level in terms of scholarships that we were able to give out each year. But we kept working. And it's just amazing when I think about that at the beginning, where we are today, that a small number of people built this organization. They built it on an all-volunteer basis. They figured it out. Because the board was basically running the organization on a day-to-day basis. They did everything. And they had to figure it out. They had to figure out, well, how are we going to select our scholars? How are we going to support our scholars? What are we going to do about figuring out about counting and keeping track of everything? How are we going to raise money to keep this program going? And they did it. They did it. It's a very small number of people. They gave them their time and their energy, and maybe most of all, their inspiration. And it was a magnificent piece of work by a really dedicated group. So, in the very beginning, there was Emily. Emily Van Ackmile. She was my partner. She brought organizational acumen, financial support, and very importantly, she brought her many friends who also helped us so very much. Among those people she invited to come and join us was Ramona Lee. Ramona brought the same gifts that Emily brought, gifts that Emily brought. And she also was the inspiration behind our what we then called junior board and now call it our associate board, which brought a whole new younger generation of people in supporting the cause in the future. And then there was Steve Ettinger. Steve Ettinger was my friend in college at the World Bank. He became our first treasurer, and he figured out the financial side. He figured out how to do our accounting. He figured out how to do our investment policy. He was a critical person in the creation of the futures. His wife, Ronnie Ava, who has also been a major contributor, is here tonight to accept the award from the University. And then Monroe Jett, we've heard about him. He's a guy who's brave. He was a guy who said, Mike, the Mike Gould Youth and Family Learning Association is just not going to cut it. And I said, what? And he said, no, I'm going to form a committee. And he did. He came back to me. And he said, New Futures. And so here we are. Aside from that, Earl was a guy who brought such enthusiasm and joy for us all. It was just such a pleasure having him to work with. And there was Greg Banks, my next door neighbor and good friend. He succeeded me as the chairman of the board, who succeeded me after I retired. He managed the organization at a particularly difficult time. It was tough. But he did it. He did it on a purely volunteer basis. And it wasn't just sitting around watching people work. It was figuring it out and getting it done. Aside from the board members who I've been talking about so far, there were two other people who we're honoring tonight. One is Debbie Carney. Debbie was our first employee. We hired her, I guess, in about 2007. And she was supposed to work part-time. And I think she did half-time, I think. And she did a lot more than that. She was so smart. She was so giving, and she figured out a whole lot of things that became the basis of how we operate today. She spent a lot of time working with students. She figured out our administrative systems, and she just gave and gave and gave. And there's one other person who I need to recognize, and that was Laurie Kaplan. Laurie Kaplan at that time was the executive director of the Latin American Youth Center. And she, before I even had gotten started in creating this organization, invited me in to the classrooms at the Latin American Youth Center and allowed me to talk to her students. And her students would say things like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do about my education, but I sure do love computers. Or I sure, my mom's been sick, and I sure would like to do something in the medical field. And from that came very much the philosophy of New Futures, to focus on shorter-term education that is occupationally oriented and doesn't cost a ton of money to get through. And Laurie also brought the Latin American Youth Center to New Futures, its first community partner, and for many years its most active. So I'm so grateful to both those people. A couple other people I need to mention tonight. The first is Eileen Rosenthal. Actually, several people have come up to me tonight and mentioned her, because aside from being on our board, we did not meet for our galas in the Omni Shore. She offered her house, and we all climbed up to the third floor. Everybody, all the guests, all the staff, everybody just climbed up there and pushed into this big, big room she had upstairs. And I'll tell you, we had the best time. We raised a lot of money, and it was just so collegial and warm. It was just so wonderful. So thank you, Eileen. And I also want to give a shout out, thank you to Barbara Kafka. Barbara Kafka came a little later, so she's not really what we consider one of the originals, but she's the one that carried the ball forward. She has the most titles of anybody in our organization. She was the treasurer, she was the deputy chair of the board, and then she became the full chair of the board. And I think after the initial burst of energy that we had getting it started and the excitement, she was the one that helped bring a lot of this to maturity. So thank you so much to Barbara. It wouldn't be appropriate if I didn't mention at least one more person. That's my brother Alan. Alan and his staff provided a bequest which provided the initial capital foundation for this organization. And in his name, we recently established the Alan J. Gould Legacy Society, which is a way of making a bequest to New Futures. And so if you would like to think about doing that, we will be setting that up, and it will be an active program, and you will be hearing more from us about that, and I hope you will participate. I am, by the way, his first member. To my fellow originals, I have this to say. What a ride. I really can't express the joy of our work in those years. We were friends, we worked hard, we argued, we figured it out, and these were dedicated, committed people who really got it all started for what we are today. What a magnificent achievement for them and for all that have come after. Thank you all so very, very much.